I'm Griffin from the North Florida Fly Fishers, Gainesville, Florida. Today we're going to tie a fly called the LA Freeway Fly. It comes with an interesting history. I might point out that this fly does best on a 3X long hook. Size is up to the tire. This is a size 8. So what we do is we start by establishing a thread base using 8/0 black thread. In order to encourage this fly to sink below the film fairly quickly, and that is a concern if you're fishing in fast current. You don't want the fly to be carried by the current out of the target area. And so to encourage the fly to sink a little more quickly, we'll put a little bit of lead wrapping around the hook shank. Now you can see the value of tying on a thread base first. It provides a kind of a high friction surface against which the lead can be wrapped, so the lead now is not apt to move on us. But just to ensure that the lead doesn't go anywhere, we'll overwrap it with a few turns of thread. Since we're going to be covering this up later, it doesn't matter whether the lead is wrapped completely or not. The tail of this fly consists of 2 neck hackles from a grizzly neck dyed olive. Get those evened up as best you can and tie them in. They ought to be tied to a length that is somewhat comparable to that of the shank length, so you don't want tails on flies, particularly if you're fishing for something other than huge fish that swallow entire flies in one gulp. If you're fishing for brim or small bass, you don't want a tail that sticks out too long, or you will be encouraging short strikes. Well, this one is not that long, so we shouldn't have any problem with short strikes. Then we're going to tie in a saddle hackle, a brown grizzly saddle hackle, grizzly feather dyed brown. The body material for this fly is called ice dub. Comes in a rainbow of colors. This one's golden brown. You can't interview fish about what they prefer. You can only go by what you're catching. So I'm not here to say this is the only color or the only body material, but I know this works on some of our local fish. So we tie in some body material. This has a nice sparkling sheen to it, which in the darker waters that we have a lot of here in the south will help to highlight the fly even in low light. It's much better when you're applying dubbing to apply a small amount and go back to the process time and again rather than tying a large amount. Large amounts of dubbing do not do well because you can't wrap them tightly around the thread, whereas you can control a small amount of dubbing. Here we go, just about finished with our dubbing phase. Then what we're going to do is we're going to tie in some wings, and they're going to be tied just about in this position. That's about 2/3 of the length of the shank up from the bend of the hook. Go up about 2/3 of the length. We've got another pair of these nice olive dyed grizzly feathers, and they're going to be tied in what is called the down wing position. Get them evened up here. I cannot honestly say what this fly imitates. I've asked various folks that have come by the table today what they think it imitates, and I've had some reasonable explanations. Some say, well, gosh, it looks like a wasp. I've had other suggestions. Of course, the only vote that counts is from the fish. And as I say, since you can't interview fish, we don't know what they take it to be. We're now wrapping our saddle hackle. We're bringing it up under our nice grizzly wings to force them into a somewhat upright position. And then we're going to finish off the fly by moving to a hen hackle. that is dyed a kind of burgundy red. So let's pick out a hen hackle here. Here goes. When you're tying a hackle around a hook in the manner in which we're tying this one on, it's nice to identify the part of the quill that will be most cooperative and not resist or fight you. And the way you do that is to bend the feather so that where the quill bends, that's where you want to use your scissors to cut the feather, and use only that part that is distal to the cut that you made out towards the tip. That's called the sweet part of the feather. Just to make sure this isn't going to come apart on us, we're going to tie in a temporary whip finish. Then we're going to use our rotary head hackle pliers. Grab the hackle by the tip, trying to include a portion of the quill in the part that we grabbed. Bring this forward. Oh boy, this is looking like a very edible fly. We'll train those hackles back using our thumb and forefinger. Finish up with a few wraps in the front end, then go back to our whip finishing tool. A whip finish knot is basically a series of overhand knots tied in succession, one after the other. And while you can do that by hand, this is a nifty little tool that will accomplish the same purpose and allow you to work in very narrow places. Now, here's another tip. I need to cut the thread. We can't go fishing with a bobbin hanging off the fly. If I go in like this, I'll cut the thread if I aim correctly, but there's some possibility I might wind up cutting some of the hackle that I've taken such pains to put on. Is there a solution to that potential problem? The answer is yes. There's a solution to most problems in fly tying. The solution is to open the jaws of the scissors and to use the scissors not as scissors but as a knife. There now we've cut the thread without cutting off any of the hackle, and there's one LA Freeway fly ready to be used.